We have talked about how to capitalize, and now we're going to learn how to scale. Our next guest is a well-known member of the MPW community who participated in the summit when she was CEO of Lululemon. Before that, she spent many years helping build the Starbucks brand, and today she joins us for the first time since starting her newest venture. She shares her point of view on what it takes to scale businesses. Joining Colleen Leahey for a one-on-one conversation, please welcome the CEO of Luvo, Christine Day.
Hello, everyone. So, Christine, as Michal mentioned, you were most recently the CEO of Lululemon, and it's been a really interesting year for you. You left Lululemon after a kind of a pants scandal that many people in the audience, I'm sure, have heard about. And so you left and thought you were going to take some time off and ended up joining a company called Luvo about 6 weeks, a little longer later. Yeah. So fill our audience in on what Luvo is and how they hooked you and got you to, not take that time off.
Not take that time off. I met with Steve Sidwell, the founder, and I was really captured by his mission. And after I tasted the product, and I thought about it for a while, and I went and stood in grocery stores. So what Luvo is a healthy food company, and it's really based on real food, small batch cooked, that's nutritious dense. So it's actually about bringing nutrition back into food and offering the convenience. And so when I stood in the grocery store aisle and I looked down the frozen aisle and I started reading labels, so I no longer could shop in 10 minutes. It took me 2 hours to go through a grocery store. And really reading the high sodium levels and the high sugar levels, the high processed food. So how do we actually bring real food back? And when 73% of our healthcare dollars are spent on food-caused illnesses, where food is the problem and food also has the potential to be the solution. I saw a classic case of disruption and marketplace disruption, and then that's what hooked me. And so the chance to tackle obesity and diabetes for me was worth getting up for every day.
And so that marketplace disruption that you're talking about, it's interesting to hear it being used in terms of kind of a traditional consumer product rather than tech, which is where it's often applied. And the companies that you've worked at throughout your career, before Lululemon, Christine was an SVP at Starbucks, and she actually helped the company go global. They are not tech companies, but they're true disruptors. Yeah. So what is it about these companies that you saw before they were proven, both Starbucks and Lululemon, and now Luvo, and how did you get the courage to kind of go for it when they just had not been proven yet?
Well, I think that's actually what I actually love to do, is where there is no evidence, is actually create the business model and the team that actually can go after that opportunity. Because, I think if you wait for the evidence, by the time that happens, you're actually not the first mover. So I really actually love being in that first mover position. But I also love, where it is purpose and brand led. And I think that's what it starts with. At Starbucks, Howard used to say, it's not, coffee is the medium. But this is really about creating the third place and bringing a personalized experience back. And so it was creating a sense of community. It was creating personal choice in a world that had gotten really complex. And so when that is the purpose, and then you produce high quality products into that, and you create a brand around that, it creates an emotional connection. At Lululemon, it was about bringing the retail shopping experience. It was about bringing fashion into athletic wear that didn't exist, but also bringing the mindset of yoga and leadership into that. So when it's a broader purpose rather than just a product-led company, that is where you have that classic disruption opportunity taking place.
So you see kind of this bigger purpose at these companies, but you still have great products. Mm-hmm. So at Starbucks and at Lululemon and now at Luvo, you, especially at Starbucks and Lululemon, you managed to really scale the companies and help them grow without watering down that great trusted brand. What's your advice for our audience members, your best tips on scaling while staying true to the company's brand?
I think the first one is really distilling down the essence of your brand, and that's what we're really good at Starbucks, is what did it stand for? And then using that as a filter for every decision that we made, and having, you know, things that you wouldn't break, like the quality of coffee was a given. You know, at Lululemon, it was exactly the same thing, distilling that. And then hiring teams that have expertise. You have to hire builders. You know, there's, in big companies, you get really good at being in meetings and making decisions through meeting process. But in small startup companies, you have to build the process that you're working within, and it comes from the talented people because there is no infrastructure. So the people that I always look for are people that are able to build, be hands-on, but strategic and see down the road and be really committed to the purpose that you're working on. And you have to do both the yin and yang. You have to create the culture, the emotional connection, and the discipline of being in your business. And even if you don't know, you have no evidence for the market you're in, you can create benchmarks of market share, looking across the industry, knowing what you need to be good at to win. And so that benchmarking, one of the first things I did when I went into Lululemon was I looked at what great looked like. I looked at 20 great companies, and I said, all right, what does win look like? What is the great sales per square foot? Who's best in the world? What have they done? You know, so I did a tremendous amount of market analysis, even though I was creating. So I knew what great looked like, and then we created a plan that delivered on great and hired people that could deliver on great and created a culture of winning and based on purpose.
And sometimes, no matter how much you win, it's time to leave a company. So let's talk a little bit about when you realized that it was time to leave Lululemon and how you learned about the environment from that experience of where you really worked best.
I think even going back to Starbucks, which I'd start with was 20 years there, starting with Howard when the first store was about 400,000 in sales and then leaving at 8 billion. You had 20 years of a career there. What I needed to know when I left Starbucks was what I was capable, what was Starbucks, what was me. And after 20 years of living in that environment, I needed to know what I was capable of. And then that's what propelled me to move into the Lululemon. And at Lululemon, at the end of it, in founder-led companies, sometimes you have a person who has a different view than you do. And I just didn't feel like I could contribute or that my vision matched that person's anymore. And when that happens, you're not going to do your best work. And you have to be able to, take control of your own life and say, this isn't working for me. And it's time for me to go find that next place where I can make the difference that I want to make in the world. And, I think if I've got 10 years of working life left in me, I want to contribute. And I want to create real value with what I do and then be valued for what that is.
So I'd love to open this up to the audience for questions, if anybody has questions. Okay, well.
Nobody even wants to ask about the pants issue.
Yeah, come on, there's a question. There we go. No. She's ready and willing.
No. I think even just talking about that, at the end of the day, what we do in startups and in any job is we come to work to solve problems. We come to work to pursue opportunities, and relationships are really what allow us to do it together, along with a purpose and a vision. And if you're not ready to manage through the bad times as much as you're ready to manage through the good times, you can't be a leader in a company. And so I actually don't consider the pants issue the big failure of my career, to be honest.
That's good, positive attitude. So a question over here.
Hi. I was going to say it's not about the pants, but thanks for saying what it was. I'm curious, you said that particularly in a founder-based company, sometimes you find that your values aren't the same as the founders, and that you have to match your values to really have a home. So I'm interested, what are the values then that you say are your values that allowed you to pick Luvo and continue to make some of the choices that you've made?
For me, it's about being a positive force in the world and using my energy to create great change for a purpose. And, in the instance with Chip, he loved disruption and kind of that clash. And that wasn't who I was, and that wasn't going to work for me. So for me, it's about creating a positive change, creating and building a company that lives its values every day, and that creates values for its shareholders. And so when I'm able to do those things and make a difference in the world, work doesn't feel like work for me. It just feels like something that I get up to do, which is change the world every day.
Any other questions? There we go. Elise?
Hi, Elise Nelson, and I run a nonprofit called Vital Voices. We work with women leaders around the world. And I believe so much that the how we do it is so much more important than the what we do, actually, because we're working with these extraordinary leaders. And I'd love for you to talk about the values piece, because one of the things that I find hardest as a CEO of a company that's relatively small, but with a big mission, is really hiring around values. You know, people will tell you what you want to hear, and it's very clear what our values are and what we're trying to do. But how do you get around that to really make sure you're hiring the right person? Because I have in my career made, a couple of mistakes where I've hired people who I don't think their values were aligned, and it just, it's like it doesn't matter how smart or good they are. If they don't have that, it becomes difficult. So I'd love your advice on that.
Well, I think there's why you do things, and that is your purpose and your vision and your mission of the company, and that should change very slowly, if at all. There's what you do, which is your strategies, and then that's how you get it done. And sometimes people confuse those things, and they hold a how to culture, and you need to change your hows all the time based on the scale of your company. So, I think there's a lot when we use the word culture and values, what does it really mean? So I think the first thing is being really clear in your organization what it means so that you can hire people into a story that you tell them. And the first thing I look for was, in interviewing process, at Starbucks we had this little green apron book that I helped, lead a team that created. But when people related to that, we knew they were hooked on the values. At Lululemon, it was the manifesto bag. So when people can come in and tell you a story about your company, your values, and how they relate to it, then you knew they were in for the same purpose you were. Then it comes down to how you work. And honestly, whether you're a team-oriented company or you're an individual contributor-oriented company, what work style are you asking people to contribute to? So how you're organized, you have to be clear and honest with people about their decision rights, how you work as a team. Like I run team-oriented companies against a strategy. And so I have to be really clear with people, this is what I'm hiring into. So if there's somebody who comes in and wants to work in a different way than that, I'm hiring a disruptor to what I'm asking people to do. So being really clear on your organizational structure, why you do things, how you do things, and are people connected to the passion and the purpose of what you're doing is really defining what values means, because then you can hire unique individuals and different people, but they get how you work as a company and they contribute to what it is you're trying to create.
Great. So it seems like the lesson from Christine from this conversation is to really know your values and know your company's values. And overall, that's going to help you really grow your businesses. And that said, the next time you're in a grocery store and you see a Lululemon-clad woman drinking Starbucks and buying frozen foods, you know who is behind all of that. Anyways, thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Colleen.